Hi, I'm Jack Lavasseur. I'm here with my wife Lisa, who is filming currently, and we are going to show you the process of making maple syrup. We live here in northern Wisconsin and we do this as a hobby. Some people do it for a living. We tap only 160 trees. Some people in our area tap 10,000 to 20,000 trees. So this area is our sugar bush. A sugar bush is a term used by the Native Americans back in the day to where they would collect maple sap from maple trees to produce maple sugar. What they would do is boil all the sap down until it is only sugar, taking off all the liquids. So as you can see here, we have, this is our maple bush, sugar bush. We tap 160 trees, which is very small. We are only a hobbyist.
Hi, we're back. It's Jack and Lisa. We're going to show you a little bit more about how you know a maple tree is a maple tree. How do you tap it? What does it all look like? So Jack's going to do a demo for us. So Jack, tell us, how do you know what a maple tree is versus other trees?
Well, sometimes it's hard to tell in our area between the maple, the basswood, and the oak. Sometimes they look very different, sometimes they look very close to the same. After a while I can kind of tell when I look at the top, I can kind of judge how the canopy is and what they look like. But I've also made a mistake and tapped the wrong trees sometimes. So what we do is we go around in the fall when the leaves are still on the trees and we mark our trees. Can you show how we mark them? We put just a simple orange dot on the tree.
Mm-hmm. So is there a time of year that you tap trees, or can you do it any time of the year?
So the sap only runs in the spring. Usually we tap at the end of February, early March, when the temperatures get above 40 degrees in the day and below 20 degrees at night. That way the sap is going up and down the tree. Once the temperatures stabilize above the freezing mark for the year, the sap stops the run. It just stays up in the branches.
Is that when the leaves pop out then?
Yes, as soon as the trees bud out, it's done for the season. So the season can last 3 weeks, it can last 8 weeks. It just doesn't matter depending on the weather.
So can you show us a little bit about how you know where you're going to tap the tree and then how that all comes together?
Sure. So we tap the trees. We like to tap the trees, because we use the bags lower because they get very heavy and it's really hard to lift them off. So what we do is I usually tap the trees about waist high. And I'm going to show you how to do it. So first thing I do is I kind of scrape a little bit of this bark away so that the bag holder will sit flush. Otherwise it's hard to get on. And then I drill with the 5/16 drill bit, and I drill 2 1/4 to 2 1/2 inches deep. You don't want to go too deep or you're into the heartwood and the sap doesn't run in the heartwood. The sap only runs in the white, it's called sapwood for obvious reasons. If you drill and you hit brown wood, you have to find a different spot. And also we try to drill a few inches away from the previous year's hole. We'll try to find one and show you how fast they heal. And there you can see, look at it running out. That's crazy. That's so next is to put the tap in the tree. This is the tap, 5/16 tap. And you put it in the hole and you tap, tap, tap.
You can see how quickly it's running out of the tap and how fast the bags will fill up, one drip at a time.
So last year we collected 2,200 gallons of sap.
Step back.
That's on one drip at a time. So that 2,200 gallons of sap made just 500, excuse me, it made just 52 gallons of syrup. So it's usually, the ratio is usually about 40 to 1, depending on sugar content. Sugar content usually averages about 2%. We test that every time just out of curiosity's sake to see, and we will show you that later on. So I'm putting together a bag in the bag holder, and we set it on here, and it's collecting sap.
Over here behind us, you can see these are a couple bags that have been up for a few days now, and you can see how full they are compared to the one that Jack just put on.
I'm going to try to find a hole from a previous year to show you. Let's see if I can find one. Okay, so here's one right here from a previous year. And you can see how it's already filling in. They fill in quite quickly.
Is it important to not use the same hole every year?
Yes, you cannot use the same hole because it's almost like scar tissue when it fills in, and you would not get any syrup out of it. So for tree health, you try to move the hole over, up and down and all around so you protect the tree. Okay, so here we are pumping off the sap that we have collected in the woods. We go around with our tractor with these 2 barrels and go to each tree and dump into the barrels. When the barrels are full, we come back to our IBC tote here and we pump it off. We pump it off into this IBC tote. From here it goes to our feeder tank inside. We make sure that every time we move sap, we filter it. There's a screen here, there's a filter inside the other feeder tank, and then when we draw it off the evaporator, it's also triple filtered, and when we bottle it, it is triple filtered. We want to get out all of the impurities and the sugar sand, which is also called niter. Niter is formed when you boil syrup. It's just a byproduct of it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's totally edible, but it just, by filtering out, it makes nice, clear, clean syrup. So here you can see our tanks. This is what we have going on. Sometimes there's bugs in it, and that's why we filter everything out.
How do you know what much sugar is in it, Jack?
Okay, so we like to test this the sugar content just for our own, use. We don't do anything with it, just for curiosity's sake. So we fill up this cup. We have a sap hydrometer. Later on, you're going to see when we test syrup, there's a syrup hydrometer. It's different. So what we do is we drop it in, and we wait for it to stabilize. And where you read the number where the sap line, the top of the sap line in the cup, which that says about exactly 2%.
You can see the number 2 right there.
Yeah, 2%. So that's 2% sugar content, which means ideally, this is 40 to 1. 40 gallons of sap will make 1 gallon of syrup. So this is our maple sugar shack where we process the maple sap into maple syrup. So let's go inside and I'll show you around. So this is our sugar shack where we produce the syrup. We use wood to fire our evaporator, so I'll explain how this all works. So the syrup, as we collect, comes into a large tote outside, and from that tote, it is pumped into this feeder tank. The feeder tank feeds the evaporator. We'll talk about this a little bit. The evaporator has a float in it to control the depth. So this gravity feeds into the evaporator. and then goes into the tank, or into the evaporator pan. The evaporator pan is a special pan for it. It's not just a flat pan. I think you can see the grooves that are inside the pan. Those grooves go all the way to the bottom of the firebox and are filled with the syrup, or excuse me, the sap. The sap boils down very, very quickly. And then from there, what it does is it comes in here, and the raw sap, and it goes around slowly as it gets heavier and thicker, and comes down, and you can probably see the difference in color already here. Then from here, I use a stopper right now because I'm finishing some syrup. It would flow around through this tube into this finishing pan, and it works its way around here to come out syrup. But when I get close to the end, I like to shut this off so I can control this much better. Sap turns the syrup when it hits 219 degrees. So at 218 to 219, I usually pull it off because I can't control it real well and I don't want to overcook it or burn it. And then I finish it on this turkey fryer where I can control it. We usually like to process 3 to 4 gallons at a time of syrup.
Hey Jack, you want to fill us in on what you're doing?
Alright, so now we are finishing the syrup. We've taken it off of the evaporator. At least run the pan over here and see. So it comes off of here. We take it into the turkey fryer and we filter it, of course, off of here. And then when we get enough, we finish a batch. So right now I'm testing. We're getting really close to being ready to bottle. So this is a syrup hydrometer, and it's going to tell us if we're ready.
So this is different than the one that you showed us earlier
Yes.
for the sap.
Yes, so you can see right now we need it to be right at there, at that line at the level of the syrup for it to be syrup. So we're just really, really close. So right now I keep testing every minute or so because we don't want to go over, or what happens is it starts to crystallize in the bottom.
Okay, we'll be back in a little while to show you what it looks like when we bottle.
So this is our reverse osmosis system. What this does is it takes some of the liquid off of the sap, so it condenses it so I don't have to boil it down as much. What it will do is it will usually bring the sap content from 2% to 6%, and that's huge. That's a lot of water, and it's actually distilled water it takes off. So this helps us to boil down the syrup much faster. When they can boil it down faster, you get much more desirable, better tasting syrup. The more you boil the sap, the darker it gets. Even if it's not syrup yet, it breaks down the sugars and burns the sugars. So right now we're able to process about 20 gallons of sap an hour into syrup. What it is, excuse me, I said that wrong. What it is we're taking about 20 gallons of moisture of the liquid of water off of the syrup to produce it faster. So as you can see here, this is how much steam is coming off. That's all just moisture, water. That's not smoke, it's steam. Alright, we're in the final stages of processing maple syrup. So here's what we do. I have finished it off on the turkey fryer. We now have this container, probably 3/4 full of syrup. We use a coffee maker. We don't plug it in, but what we like to do is we use the Orlon filter, that's specially for maple syrup. Then we use 3 pre-filters. Again, and that's the same thing we do when we take it off of the evaporator to put onto the turkey fryer. Every time we move sap, It's either screened or filtered. So now I'm going to do is fill this coffee pot up. And we like to use the coffee pot up for two reasons. These filters fit in there great, and it has the spigot for filling up bottles, which you'll see in just a moment. So right now I'm filling this up and trying not to make a mess or burn myself. And right now I have to wait a little bit as it goes through the filter. Here. So now we're going to be filling the pint bottles.
We're going to do this little one first.
Do our sample bottle first, yes.
So every batch we make, every batch of syrup we bottle, we make a sample bottle. I'll show you what those look like in a second.
There is the sample bottle. Now let me do a pint here real quick. And you can see what I mean about how this tapper here works on the coffee pot. It's great for filling the bottles. So
is that hot, Jack? It looks really hot.
Oh, yes. It has to be at least 200 degrees to bottle. That way it makes sure that if there's any kind of germs or bacteria or anything in any of the bottle, the cap, any of this, it is killed.
Okay.
So I'm going to take over and my lovely assistant Kim.
Okay, you go.
Okay, sorry about the confusion. Okay, so lovely assistant Lisa, first time on camera.
That's why I have my hood up. It's a bad hair day.
She's the hooded helper. So what she does here is she's put the caps on, but we can't just put a cap on. There could be a little bit of syrup on the lip, so we have to clean it off carefully.
Sometimes a little syrup might end up on the side of the jar, so we want to make sure that we're very, very careful.
We're very careful and want to have a good product when we're done. So now she dips it in the water, the very smoking hot water, as you can see, and lays it on its side. And that's to sanitize the neck of the bottle and the cap. It just has to be on its side for a few seconds and it's sanitized. But everything is so hot that it instantly sanitizes it. So now we're going to continue on. You're not going to want to watch us do 4 gallons of syrup.
I'll put a label on this one so people can see what we do.
Okay, so the hooded helper is going to label a bottle so that it'll be completely finished. And it's real crucial. We gotta separate these out as they cool, because if you have them too close together, they will actually continue cooking and be overdone. So as we put them on the counter to cool, we gotta make sure everything is separated. And there's the label. Now ready for cooling and boxing. Can you see how beautiful and clear that syrup is?
Show up here all the samples.
So these are our samples from each batch so far this year. You can see there might a little different color, and that's normal. We're very lucky. A lot of times the syrup will start out very, very light, almost the color of honey. And then as the season goes on, it gets darker and darker. And we've had good luck, I think, with our reverse osmosis and evaporator, that we get consistent color for the most part. So anyway, that concludes our short video tour of how to make maple syrup from tree to bottle. I hope you enjoyed. Bye.